So thank you all for coming to the BASC ride. For those who don't know, BASC is the Bicycle Advisory and Safety Committee. We are a city/citizen partnership that is kind of focused on improving and commenting and just recommending better cycling infrastructure for the city of Huntsville. Before we start, we're going to have everyone introduce ourselves because I know most people here, but just to kind of understand where every person is coming from, just say who you are and what your role is and what brought you here and what your interest in cycling is. So,
yeah, I'm Joe Gleason. I'm a planner in the Urban and Long Range Planning Department. I've been there for a little over a year and a half and been working with BASC on various projects and going to meetings and everything about that long too. So I'm from here, but I've been working in Tennessee for the past 6 years, so I'm just now like getting back into the Huntsville mode, I guess. So, but anyway, yeah, my background's in landscape architecture and political science, and here in planning, and really want to get some good projects for Huntsville. So.
Yeah, I'm Larry Mason, Executive Director of Public Co-op and a member of the BASC committee. I think a voting member.
You are.
Oh, okay. I'm Vivian Terry. I'm BASC secretary. I've been in BASC for about 2 years. I am from Huntsville, but I moved to Chicago. That's kind of where I learned how to bike, commuter-wise. And coming back to Huntsville, just trying to get back to biking, by commuting, but also seeing where things can be improved. So that's why I love being part of BASC.
Ben Payment. I'm one of the graybeards, I guess, of BASC. I've been on the committee for 10 years now or so. Founded Bikes and Brews and was a board member for the Land Trust for a long time. So I've been pushing Greenway's bike infrastructure since I moved back to Huntsville 12-ish years, but grew up here. So.
And board member.
Board member of.
Yeah, so I'm Josh Wood. I'm a longtime bike commuter, lived car-free for many years until coming to Huntsville, where my girlfriend said we had to get a car for safety. I've been kind of a lapsed BASC member for several years now. I used to be more active, but I try and come out for initiatives that I see as useful here. Yeah, and I wanted to come today. So I've got cameras on my bike. Are people okay if I record the ride? Okay, yeah, I'll just upload it to like a private YouTube channel and send it to Jacob, and you can use it at the BASC meetings.
I'm Terry, City of Huntsville Traffic Engineering. I'm here because of him. Yeah. So,
He forced you.
yeah. I'm a signal tech, work on traffic signals and stuff. So I do a lot of mountain biking and a little bit of road biking.
Yeah, I too, I'm more mountain biker than road biker.
I'm Gareth Bug. I work in City of Huntsville Traffic Engineering. I'm the projects manager over there. I've been there about a year. Yeah, we kind of sent this to a lot of folks in our office, and Terry was very willing to come. We were glad he's here. So yeah, I'm excited to see. I don't commute with my bike. Unfortunately, I live in an area of town that makes it a little bit difficult to do that. But I do enjoy biking more for exercise than actual transportation. But I do like the idea of it.
I'm Jared Anderson. I'm a design engineer with NASA, and I connected with BASC like a couple months ago. I've only been a cyclist of any kind for like 3 or 4 months now. This is very new for me. But I've just started out in the world of like civic engagement and participation of any kind. And the first things that I really caught my attention was cycling, advocacy, infrastructure, etc. So I'm really interested in hearing this and don't know that much. Like,
Thanks for coming up. And my name is Jacob Hell. I'm the co-chair for the Bicycle Advisory and Safety Committee and the board member of Hubs. I like doing rides and I like riding with people, so that's why I wanted to organize this kind of ride. We're kind of going to be riding on a route that's a little bit less than 5 miles. It's going to be a casual pace. We're going to stop at a few different points to kind of just have a quick discussion about the infrastructure that we just rode on and what we liked, what we didn't like, and just have a general comment period about the various points. And for those who have not ridden in a group before, just kind of follow my lead, follow my signals, I'll let everyone know when to stop, turn left, turn right, whatever. If you have any mechanical issues with your bike, holler and let us know. I brought some extra tubes and my multi-tool, and several of us are, of course, experienced with bike repairs, so we should be able to hopefully resolve any mechanical issues that might come up. Yeah, I think that's it. Good. So we just rode through 5 points for about a mile. So thinking about some of the pros, or what would everyone say was their comfort level while cycling at 5 points compared to maybe other types of road you've ridden on?
Level 2 or 1, 1 being the lowest. Okay, I love it on bike specifically because when you slow down to a stop sign, it's like you lose all that energy to stop, and then you have a car that might be approaching behind you, and then you take even longer to get through the intersection. This is why the Idaho stop is legal in Idaho, which is where a cyclist has the right of way if they have to slow down.
It's supposed to be treated as a yield sign.
Yeah, it's a yield sign for stop signs, and so that's just an interesting thing. Not saying we should change that now. I'm just saying a lot of maybe cyclists might slow down at stop signs, but not necessarily stop as far as for safety reasons, just for that. So.
Well, it's proven it's safer if you don't stop.
Right.
It's statistically safer. And roundabouts are good for cars too. They generally, if you pick your intersections where you apply them, they keep traffic flowing faster than, say, a light system or a stop sign. So.
Yeah, medium to low levels traffic roundabouts faster.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It makes a lot of sense.
All right. Okay. We're going to move to our next points, where we are going to go on Huntsville's newest bike lane.
And then
that
this
I
will screw on
noticed
to.
is that
Oh, but I think
drivers
it's
are definitely
this
riding
side.
a lot faster, getting a lot closer while I was riding.
Yeah.
I guess sometimes it's just interesting that cars pass cyclists differently. Some did pass pretty close. Some took that
might
whole
be the
middle
others.
turn lane, and that's not exactly safe
Is
for
it
them
catching?
either. It's not
doesn't.
clear.
Might be
So
here.
that's one thing I worry about.
Okay, yep.
And also, I just
Sorry,
noticed
I led you
one of
wrong.
those construction trucks just went past us, and I don't know what he would have done exactly. But basically, they're there, and then we have this bike lane right here, so it's like cars don't exactly know how much space to give. It's supposed to be 30
Yeah, I think
feet,
I got it.
with some caveats, okay. But I think drivers don't necessarily know how to do that. That's why having more physical barrier or that buffered lane was either delineators or a buffered lane, buffer space. Yeah, between cars and the bike lane, so that it has some space that if someone goes into the bike lane, you're not actually in the bike lane yet. But physical barrier probably would be better because of the speed currently at this road. It's at 40. I mean, luckily cars did slow down, but they don't have to. And I imagine they slow down when they see a group of bike riders opposed to
Yeah.
one.
I think we saw different behavior than traditionally a single cyclist would experience.
Right.
Just continuing on that thought, right? I consider that to be a very narrow bike lane.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. I would have loved to see them take another half foot, a foot or a foot and a half out of the center turn lane and giving it to the bike lane. Especially as a single cyclist there. I ride on Bradford also, which is about the same width as that one. And it's terrifying because people pass me, and even though they're in their lane and I'm in my lane, there's not 3 feet between us. And anytime you build infrastructure where people can stay in their lane and you don't have that 3-foot separation, I don't feel the infrastructure was built well, right? It's setting up people's mentality to say that's okay, and it's absolutely not, especially at those high speeds.
Yeah. Well, and I find so that center turn lane also, it encourages the high speeds because it gives this perception of this wide open roadway. Whereas if the car lanes were adjacent to one another and having to pass one another, they slow down. They don't go 45, 50 miles an hour. And
That's
you
that
get the
new
extra
design
room.
that they have in a few places where they've got the wide bike lanes on each side, and then the lane in the middle is for cars. And if 2 cars approach each other, they're allowed to go into the bike lane to get past each other.
I don't know
That's
about
a different
that.
scary
Yeah.
conflict point, but
Well, no, they're doing it in the West, and it seems to be quite popular. Mainly because there's not that many bicycles. Now, if the bicycle lane were constantly full of bicycles,
I have to see it to really appreciate.
Yeah.
You know, it also depends, like, you know, how many left turn opportunities there are, and how you stripe it. You might be able to make it safe to say, like, oh, you're at a potential conflict point because there's very few left turn opportunities, and you like, you know, big stripes in the bike lane for both the car and the rider. Say, hey, this could be a conflict point, right? You know, but I'll have to read about that. Thanks.
Yeah.
One thing that I've noticed about it since this bike lane was, since this road was repaved and the bike lanes were added, though I live maybe half a mile away from here to go downtown Austin, I never really use this bike lane. I usually opt for going down Stevens or Clinton, the roads we're on at 5 points, because I feel just a lot more safe, or I feel like there's the drivers are usually going a lot slower and usually getting a lot more space compared to Oakwood, which is what we were just on.
And what roads were you just saying that was
So,
safe?
yeah, I usually go down Stevens and then Clinton, which is the road that we were on when we were crossing into Jackson coming here.
Yeah, I mean, in this instance where you've got, you know, 20 parallel roads, right, with the same east-west, when there's no connection point on either end, right? Like, you're never going to use this infrastructure. Now, admittedly, that railroad track makes an impediment at this time. So if it continued and crossed Oakwood with at least some protected infrastructure, I think you'd see a lot more use. But right now, where it isn't connected to anything and there are safer parallel options, the cyclists are just going to use the safer parallel options and leave the infrastructure alone.
Yeah, you have a completely beautiful gridded street design there. I mean, that network is perfect.
and it doesn't cost anything. You know, hey, let's
And-
just go
yeah,
where there's
right.
no traffic, right? The farther you have to go out of your way to use it, though, the more likely you're going to use this. So
Yeah.
it's a trade-off.
All right. We move on to segment. Kind of probably the most protected cycling infrastructure that's available in Huntsville. We had a buffered bike lane, then we had a off-street path, and of course we had the protected bike lane at Spraggins. So, what do we all think? Do we feel safer, or what were kind of the levels of safety that you all felt in that segment?
I was curious about, because I've seen it both ways now, where you have the cars parked and the cars actually become the buffer and the bike lane is right on the curb, as opposed to the way it is here where you have the bike lane in between the parked cars and the travel lane. What kind of discussion goes into making that decision?
I have some thoughts about this one. It's such a small amount of car parking, and there's curbs in the road that I think had they tried to put the bike lane protected by the cars would never use it. They would always park in the bike lane because they would be worried about their cars getting hit in the road.
Yes.
And so I think the infrastructure was designed sort of based on the actual probable use case, because you can imagine, like, there's some single car parking spots that had they separated a bike lane, they would have literally just been in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
And so I think it makes sense the way it was designed. And also those parking spots are basically only used late Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, where there's drunk driving and whatever else that, like, is going to make that bicycle infrastructure unsafe any which way you do it. So I think it was done well in that situation. I think you have to have narrow roads to accommodate and slower speeds, right? That street on Meridian is really, really wide with 3 and 4 lanes in places. To have the cars way out in the middle of the road, I don't think works. I think you're going to have like a 2-lane road and consistent car parking, right? Where, like, cars are basically parked there 70-80% of the time, like in neighborhoods and whatever, where they maintain that protected corridor as opposed to very transient parking.
I don't know. So I bike Meridian a lot, and it is really nice most of the time. The only time I've noticed parking being an issue is like Friday night, where you've got the drinking there. I mean, it's a lot of breweries, and so it is a high-risk thing. You have to be really careful about swinging outdoors and stuff. And given how few parking spots are there, I don't fully understand why they're there, like why you can't just get rid of those, because there's a parking lot around the corner from all the breweries right there. So I don't understand why there is parking along Meridian at that
So
point.
they actually did take away a lot of parking for the bicycle infrastructure and whatnot, and I think it was to sort of ameliorate the businesses who
were the ones that
wail and gnash their teeth. You can't take away, because admittedly on Friday night, all those are full. I mean,
they're full.
full.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but it's only, the biggest ones are usually the ones directly in front of the, like, there's that 3 right in front of the businesses. And those are the ones that I have to be super careful about, because people are just not paying attention when they're parking and when they're throwing doors open.
Yeah, it's definitely a big door zone hazard when you're biking there, especially considering, you're in the door zone and there are a lot of cars there on Fridays and Saturday nights.
Yeah, and you have to balance it, right? So, like, we don't have much, so, parking is limited, but we have very little bike infrastructure. And at what point do you say the cars are more important than the bikes? I don't know the answer to that question.
I know. And when you have the business community backing that, that's been the hardest thing.
And that's like induced demand, though, because every place that they've ever done any studies has shown that by eliminating parking and making something more walkable, the businesses thrive more.
Right.
Because you're driving by a business at 35 miles an hour, and say, let me stop and run in there.
Yeah.
No, you keep going and say, well, maybe next week I'll stop.
Right.
But when people are walking, then they're more inclined to do that spontaneous shopping.
Yeah, I think, foot traffic and encouraging foot traffic, it's more acceptable or, favorable in certainly the central core downtown. So.
That would be a good place to have entertainment on both sides of Meridian. Yeah. But I don't know that. I mean, there's Bud Kramer Park, and it's not going to go to anything
I think in that situation, the city did a good job balancing both user cases because you're never going to appeal to everyone and appease everyone. There is still good bicycle infrastructure, and on Friday night, you just got to be careful, right? Extra careful. And I don't think eliminating those three. I don't think eliminating those 3 parking spots are going to change that.
Let's put this into perspective, though, right? So, like, as a cyclist in Huntsville with very limited infrastructure, I have to be careful all the time.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
I have cars driving at me all the time, trying to hit me, shout at me, and this is like, could we consider maybe, losing 4 or 5 parking spaces and making that road much safer to bike on for a whole day of the week for a cyclist versus, and the thing is, like, you can regain those 4 by having people carpool, right? So many people drive in this town with a single occupancy per vehicle.
Right. I don't think that 5 parking spot, like there's like hundreds of people that go to those. There's Furniture Factory and then there's Rock Republic there. There's hundreds of people that go there at night. 5 parking spots probably aren't going to be noticeable.
Yeah.
They aren't, but I think they had to accommodate the businesses, and when they go to repave it, right, and restripe it in 5 years, maybe they lose them, right? But they already lost like 20 spots that used to be there. So it's like, I think it was good balance in the moment, and it's good, safe infrastructure 95% of the time.
Sure, yeah, but there's this thing called Vision Zero, which is like, trying to get it all the time.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, I just don't want it to be, that kind of thinking can be an impediment to future improvement.
It's good.
I'm with Ben though, because right when I came on board, that was an issue, and it was pitched. The idea was pitched within the planning.
And it's just parking takes up a lot of space by definition for cars, and there are other alternatives like parking garages, which are more expensive and having people pay for them.
And I think that's the fear around here, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's because we don't really trust drivers. Like, nobody does. Engineering department, I would say, just drivers in Huntsville in general are just not pro-bicycle quite yet. We haven't really gotten to that, and they're kind of aggressive, and they're except, I know, but
this square right here is to me, one of the dodgiest places in. I used to work on the blue bikes, and I'd have to park on this side, and I have to get over to the blue bikes, and people are speeding through here. This kind of helps when the reconfiguration of that, but this is like this and what's that street?
Green Street?
Washington, or the next one over there. Yeah. They're not people that are coming downtown to work. They're people that are trying to get through downtown as fast as they can. Like that guy.
Well, he had to speed up to go around to get in front of that guy because he knew that he was going to get forced to that lane.
So this and then Church Street is terrible. That's one. You got pedestrians walking with people going 55 miles an hour. I've seen that close.
Yeah.
So Church Street to me is like.
Well, I think one of the ideas too of Vision Zero, and one thing that we're going to be talking about a lot next year and in our bike plan, is safety awareness, safety training, multimodal safety training, how to drive, how to bike, and negotiate driving with shared riding with drivers. Sorry.
So a bit about bike safety and with the door zone thing. I think with the bike lane there, cyclists probably have a false sense of security, and they'll be closer to the door, and it's much easier for them to feel like they should be there. Not more experience as in getting door twice showed me not to be so close all the time. I think that's why the infrastructure would be even a safety concern, because I don't know how many cyclists actually realize cars might open it, and that's one of the more common bike accidents in bigger cities, because cyclists will ride very close to stationary cars. So I guess that's just about the bike safety part. Like, education's really hard to get across, but having a bike lane that says that you're right next to a parked car also signifies you should be closer to the bike lane, which you actually, cars, when you shouldn't be, and that's where there is that
You can get doored on either side of a car.
You can,
right?
but
Yeah.
but her point is, you don't want to build infrastructure to funnel people into bad situations, which we do have a history of doing with Governor's House Drive Southwest.
Yep,
funnels
yep,
you into
yep.
2 bad situations on either end.
And that's the non-connected nature of the infrastructure. And I think it's really important. We also were on the cycle track, and as we were riding, we all acknowledged that even though Alta Planning came in to try and help us build that as safe as possible infrastructure, when we go back to our levels, I consider that level 2, right? It's not quite safe for families, and I think it's particularly important because it connects 2 parks, right, where it is very safe for families to bike. And it's about to, in the next 5 years, be connected to the Sky Bridge. And if that little section can't be made safe for families, that gets all the way to neighborhood, right? Like, you want neighborhood to neighborhood connectivity that's safe for families, right? And then outside of that, for the commuters and stuff, right, if you have to get to level 2 where maybe kids can't ride on it, that's a compromise of things. But like connecting parks and neighborhoods and $60 million worth of new infrastructure coming in, I think it's important. Like, and if that means Spraggins has to go to like a cobblestone one-way like pedestrian mall or something,
It should be a guest street. Yes,
to facilitate that connection as we grow as a city. I mean, I think we absolutely are going to have to take a look at that.
Well, and then, I mean, to Josh's point, I think you want to kind of begin to start to make owning a car a pain in the ass. I mean, that's the only way we're going to get out of the car-dependent culture.
Well, I think we were at risk of not getting bicycle infrastructure on Meridian, and that was the compromise.
Yeah.
And I'd rather poor, but better than none infrastructure.
I wouldn't rank it as poor. I'd say Meridian is pretty solid.
Yeah, it's like 80%,
just,
80% of the way there being a level 1, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some more protected infrastructure and.
So the intersections are really the issue.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
On Spraggins?
On Meridian.
On Meridian.
Well, on Spraggins too.
Well, on Meridian, it's more with the door, like the door
Yeah, the
zone.
parking.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but on Spraggins, yeah, the intersection.
Mhm.
If you're trying to get off the protected bike lane, it's like we're trying to turn left, like that, something like we just did. It's a little dicey to do that.
But he pointed out right there in front of the new coffee shop, your bike box is in the entrance and exit to the parking garage, right? You're not safe there, even though that's where you're supposed to wait for the light to change. You've got turning traffic from 3 different directions that makes it really unsafe. People aren't going to ride with their kids there, right?
Yeah.
It's just not acceptable, right? Especially little kids.
Right.
And I think it's really important that there are connections from these 2 wonderful park infrastructures and soon to be an amazing mile-long bridge that you need access to the residential area that's adjacent, that is safe and accessible, level 1, friendly to families. My opinion, bed payment.
No, it makes total sense, and I think we need to revisit that when we do start the bike plan, since we'll have Alta there, And,
Look what you've done to us.
I mean, I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, if and hopefully Alta can come up with some good ideas, right? Whether they make it a one-way road, right, and they give more emphasis, but again, there are people that have done letters to the editors complaining about Spraggins. One of my neighbors, old crotchety car guy, says he sat and watched the bike path for an entire day and counted cyclists, and he's like, I didn't see a single one. And I assume it was for several hours and he embellished, but I also believe it, right? You can sit there for 3 hours and not see a cyclist.
Because they don't feel safe.
They don't feel safe, or it's not commuting hours, or it's not nice weather, or like we got day job, whatever the reason. Families in the middle of the day aren't going to use it because it's not safe for them. People that have jobs only use it in the morning and in the largely, right? I mean, there's exceptions.
Yeah, but there are lots of roads of the same thing. So if you apply the same logic, we should eliminate a number of roads around town.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Field of Dreams, also.
Yeah, I mean, you have to compare it in a relative sense. How much are we spending on our cars, and how much are we spending on our bikes? And I'm sure they're not anywhere near comparable.
Yeah.
But I think, like what we were talking about before, maybe other traffic calming measures, and I mean, seriously, even cobblestone. We talked about doing that on Church even, to slow down traffic on Church, because, I mean, Church is not safe, and you're going back and forth.
Well, when's Church going to build the bridge over the park, and then it eliminates that problem?
I don't know.
Maybe when they tear down the city hall.
Yeah, that's the 30-year strategic plan, is that just like...
So they can find Mexico to pay for it.
what Low Avenue, right in front of the VBC, has the bridge over the creek. The long-term plan is there will be a bridge over the creek there, so there's no longer the pedestrian crossing, and so you would eliminate that pinch point for the park goers, and you know, the speed. They'd basically be an elevated road, right? So
I think it's going to be looked at more sooner than later because of the courthouse coming in, of course, and everything. A lot more pedestrian traffic too going on there. So yeah, it's something that I think it's going to be sooner than later.
Great.
Yeah. Also, another thing about parking and bike lanes. You know, we're looking at where, you know, resurfacing projects are coming up, and we're looking at what would be feasible for bike lanes and what wouldn't, what roads. And this is a neighborhood road, but I just want to kind of throw this out here. Hermitage, there's a lot of, you know, bicyclists on Hermitage, and a lot of families on Hermitage, little kids. No bike lanes, of course. A lot of on-street parking, just because a lot of houses, you know, and visitors and stuff like that. So it was one of the roads that we're looking at. Would it be feasible to put a bike lane there, and would it be safe? Because you do have speed bumps there, of course.
Right.
But it's just a major. It's kind of a major corridor for those neighborhoods to come down Hermitage. They cross over to get to Fraser and then go down Low. They don't go all the way to the end of Hermitage because that's too hard to negotiate. That flashing light there across California is ridiculous. So they'll go Fraser and then down Low, and we're trying to redesign Low to make that more, you know, bicycle, more of like a bike boulevard. And so, you know, we're trying to think about that, but we're worried that cars are going to park right in the bike lanes all along there.
Purely residential with a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit and speed bumps, and a lot of on-street parking. I just can't see a need for the infrastructure.
That's what I was going to say. There's not, besides the residents who are using that, there's not really any connections there, like connecting Hermitage to, I think that goes to Andrew Jackson, right?
It does.
Well, but they'll come down from, like, you know,
all of Blossomwood.
All of Blossomwood down Hermitage, but like I said, they'll cross Fraser to get to Low. I mean, sorry, not Fraser. What is that road? Tennessee, maybe? Then get to Fraser, then Low to get to downtown. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So every weekend, like, families are funneling through there to get downtown and to the park and everything. And so
if they're not comfortable riding in a 25-mile residential, they're probably not going to come downtown, right? I mean, even the best infrastructure isn't going to be as safe as a 25-mile-an-hour neighborhood, right? I mean, for the most part, right? In my opinion.
A little bit, I do agree with you to some extent, but I do see a benefit to it, though, which is advertising. So you would clearly mark what you'd effectively connect, and Hermitage is a spectacular road for this because there's Hermitage Park too, which connects up to all the trails, and so you'd be creating this avenue, which is like a collector from, you know, all the families in that neighborhood to get them into Big Spring.
Yeah.
And so you create this branch that connects, you know, a large portion of residential to the center of the city, and then you can branch out. And so that's like, if you want to start getting people cycling, having clearly marked routes for them that show them easy ways to get to where they want to go.
And another proposal there too would be like a super sidewalk, like we've done on Weatherly. So it'd be shared use, you know, pedestrian and cyclists, but at least the cyclists would be buffered from the car traffic somewhat. So we're
little
just
bit, but there's a lot of crossroads there, so then you end up with a lot of like
conflict
going
points.
on and off.
There's a
too
lot
many
of
conflict
driveways
points.
there too.
Yeah.
I expect a lot of cars to be parked blocking that. So the super sidewalk.
Yeah, and I suspect also the on-street parking, it's not wide enough in most of the section to still preserve the on-street parking.
Yeah.
I just can't. It's really hard to tell those neighbors, hey, you can't park on the street anymore.
I know.
Right? I mean, like, especially that's half of old influential Huntsville. They're just going to be like, no, right? We control the purse strings and just no.
Yeah.
But
it would be wonderful as like because it creates it just like simplifies everything for, you know, if you're a family, you move there and you want to know where to bike, it's just literally you have a painted roadway that points you straight towards downtown.
Yeah.
But I feel like the bike route signage idea, getting that more prominent at the start, just if people knew that's the road that should take, and with specifically saying you go to Big Spring Park from this road.
Yeah.
signage.
But
Yeah,
you start.
a little bit. I mean, having
Very true.
it's hard to beat a painted bike lane because the other benefit is it does clearly delineate like where bikes are allowed to be in the road and where cars should be. That's the other benefit of having a bike lane.
Yeah, I'd like to see a lot more
Yeah.
painting.
Well,
I don't know what's so expensive.
Well, I agree. It's just to Finn's point about the 25 mile per hour road. It is.
Hermitage might be 30, but,
okay, well,
but
if
even
it is-
still, with the speed
Yeah.
The
bumps,
speed bumps.
If it is if it is slower, then the bike lane could just make people be in like their lane kind of
A
mentality.
little bit.
So.
But I mean, what if you picked another road? So there are lots of roads, right?
Oh no, I know.
Yeah.
The reason why I
And
mentioned that
all-
is because
yeah.
it's getting resurfaced soon.
Right. Yeah. It would be
So-
nice if we could, designate, some common ones that are like really nice to bike on already potentially,
Yeah.
and just like make these clear bike avenues or something like that.
Yeah.
Where cyclists really feel at home and can see where they should be in the roadway.
Right.
Because I mean, there's a lot of misinformation coming from drivers who shout, get out of the roadway, get on the sidewalk,
Yeah.
everywhere in all neighborhoods and all roads, pretty much. So.
Speaking of that, getting resurfaced soon, do you know the schedule for some of these resurfacing
I just
projects?
know that-
And is there a way to let BASC know ahead of time?
I just
when-
know it's coming out.
Oh,
And Dennis
okay.
said to be thinking about it, and he mentioned Hermitage only because I live there.
they post a list at the end
Yeah.
of every or beginning of every year of all the roads
Fiscal
they're
year, they
gonna.
have all the resurfacing.
Yeah.
But that's just like once a year.
Yep, then that's the plan for the whole year. That we're going to resurface these roads.
Oh, okay.
It's-
Don't necessarily go like that either. That's the plan.
Right, exactly, yeah. But that's why I want to start the live Excel sheet.
Uh-huh.
I've actually finished it. I'm sending it out to staff to get y'all's opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming out. Really appreciate it. It's definitely
Especially city folks.
Yeah, especially thank you for coming, city folks.
Wish we had more.
Yeah. Well, Bill Kling was going to come today, but he had a situation. But next year, once Alta is fleshing out the FPO wide bike plan, I'll probably schedule another ride just to kind of talk more about some pain points and things that they want to look at while they're developing the bike plan. Yeah.
Well, I, for one, really enjoyed this. It was a great break for me, and I learned a lot. So